Hello USD 413 staff. Today we're going to continue our staff development commitment to using instructional strategies in the classroom. This month's lesson is a continuation of Marzano's instructional strategy number 2, summarizing and note-taking. If you recall, we took on the note-taking portion of the strategy number 2 earlier this year. Due to time constraints in the length of the lesson, we have separated these out into 2 different parts, summarizing and note-taking. So today we look at summarizing. Before we start with summarizing, let's take a look at why we invest the time and resources in USD 413 to train teachers in the use of Marzano's instructional strategies. Well, you always hear your principals talk about that these are research-based strategies. And by research-based strategies, that means that the effect size of students tested while using these strategies, students learn more or at a higher percentile than students when these strategies are not used. This doesn't mean to say that individual teachers can't experience different levels of success by using different strategies. But all in all, if we have research-based strategies that are proven, then each and every teacher could add a new tool or a skill to his teaching toolbox, if you will, to become a better instructor. USD 413 is determined to strengthen and reinforce teacher usage of these strategies in the day-to-day instruction that we see across the district. Before we get started in summarizing and note-taking, let's do a quick review of what we've done this year. First of all, we took on Marzano Strategy 1, Similarities and Differences. This is shown to have the greatest average effect size in research. That means that of the Marzano's 9 strategies, that perhaps this is the most efficient strategy or the effective strategy. Statistically, it certainly is. And in reviewing, we look at looking at similarities and differences. We look at the use of Venn diagrams showing what's different, what's the same, using metaphors and analogies, T-charts and sorting mats. Almost everyone in the district, if not everyone in the district, has already practiced this strategy and turned in a sample lesson plan. Keep on using this strategy. It's a very powerful strategy. Then our second part, as we already mentioned, we took on the note-taking part of summarizing and note-taking. And practicing this in the classroom might look like journals or fishbone notes. If you don't know what those are we're not going to take that up in this lesson today, but you can take just a few minutes to look that up on the internet or ask a colleague. That's very readily available to you. We talked in the last installment of the Marzano strategy video about iNotes. And iNotes are simply taking the I and making the I on the note page, write the objective at the top, the daily objective at the top, if you will. And then on the left side of the I have teacher-prepared notes or verbatim notes that the teacher's given students or is going to give students. On the right side of the I, perhaps a student drawing or students preparing their own notes or using some kind of an organizer to organize their notes and their thoughts. And then finishing at the bottom of the I, student paraphrase, today I learned, or as a result of today's lesson, I can. And another example is outlining. So using a quick review, using a Marzano strategy number 2, we've done the note-taking. Now we move on to summarizing. Why learn to summarize? Summarizing is a key skill leading to student comprehension. Comprehension is crucial in every discipline. Sometimes you hear the word comprehension and you relate that to reading. But comprehension is crucial in every single discipline across the curriculum. Another way of using summarizing is restating content in a way which highlights crucial information. In order to maximize the use of summarizing, we have to teach students to do so. Some strategies are more important than others because they're more efficient. Teach students strategies that worked and practice these strategies in the classroom. Strategy 1 that Marzano suggests is to clarify what's important. And by doing this, it says students need to recognize what's important in the text structure and what isn't. When you think about practicing this in the classroom, can students identify, if you read a story, whether that's in social studies or in English, can the student identify the main characters, and can the student identify the rising and the falling of action in the story? Are they able to retell the content the way that the content actually occurred? Can they identify the key points of the content? And of course, this can be used across the curriculum as well. To practice strategy 1, students need to read and build using the strategy, using the skill. In elementary level or other minor levels, students might start just simply by reading sentences and clarifying what's important. Can they clarify what's important and reinforce that? Can the teacher reinforce that? Then students read paragraphs. Students do the same thing and then build. Students read stories, students read excerpts, technical writing, and etc. Strategy number 2, teach students text structures. Now, when I first saw this, being a science teacher, then I said, well, I can't do that. This is going to take me a month to memorize the text structures. Well, this is easier than it sounds to non-language arts teachers. You might want to put up a poster in your room and have students put these in their agenda across the curriculum. It's very simple to do. Teaching expository text structures. They're very simple. We already do this when we read, when adults read, when we're trying to figure out a manual or trying to study. We already do these things automatically. We look at what description text structures, or generalizing. When we read it, just generalize what's it about. This goes with the strategy 1 in the storytelling. Can you read it and then just turn and tell someone what you just read, or what generally what it was about? Argument text structures, which would be proof or evidence. This is where a student might have to take a side and show parts of the reading in science of the proof that's there, evidence that's there or is not there. Argument text structures. Definitions. Students can't comprehend without vocabulary, and so students must look at the things that define words in the expository text structures. Another part is comparing. This goes right along with Marzano's strategy 1, comparison. What in the text is different, and in what way are things the same? And finally, the problem and solution text structures. As students read, can they identify the things in the story that might pre-identify a problem or a solution or other possibilities? The tools for summarizing are also important. Students, when they're not using, of course, school-issued texts, need to use colored pens, pencils, highlighters. When they're using school-issued texts, they can do mental summarizing. They can do the things that we just talked about: describing, generalizing, argument, definition, comparison, problem, solution. All the text structures can be done mentally. That's what we do as teachers and adults when we read. Colorizing then on colorized summarizing on copies of personal materials and things that the students that you don't mind them writing on. So practicing strategy number 2, just in describing. So I don't know how accurate this is, but I took a small excerpt and posted it here. Eric was an artist, so he noticed details, and taking that lead, he noticed details. Then I went and circled all the things that would show details in that short story. And you can do that using all of the text structures and have students highlight, circle, underline. Another strategy that Marzano talks about is marking out all the words that are meaningless, or the words that really don't have specific relations to a text structure. So those are the tools of the trade. Strategy 3, encourage graphic representations. Again, going along with Marzano's number 1 strategy. Graphic representations help students make connections in their mind, show relationships in their mind, and connect that and move that to paper. They also show disconnectedness, similarities, and differences, and then use graphic representations to demonstrate understanding. Strategy 4, review essential vocabulary. Predetermine the vocabulary that is essential. The teacher has to do this. What are the absolute essential words that students must know to comprehend the content that you're trying to teach them? And then try to connect previously learned material or vocabulary to new vocabulary. Yes, this is a Bloom's Level 1 lesson. It almost always is. When you're working on vocabulary, however, it has to be done. It's a necessity and not an option when it comes to comprehension. So, Marzano's strategy number 2, summarizing and note-taking. Summarizing, that's just a quick overview of the skill. Let's get to practicing.